Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I'm super excited because today I have a special guest, none other than Margaret Johnson. She's an artist who has an exhibition titled Emergence right now in Boulder, Colorado. So we're going to talk about the show. We're going to talk about her ideas behind it. We're going to talk about, how to put the show together, which I had the privilege to be part of that as well, and the marketing and everything that makes a show. So if you are an artist who has an exhibition maybe coming up, I think this will be a great inspiration to you as well.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Hey, Margaret, good to see you. How are you today?
Hey, Sergio. I'm doing really well, thanks. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time from your schedule to join us here inside the Artist Next Level podcast. And particularly today, because you are sitting right in the middle of your exhibition. It's a solo show that is titled Emergence that opened on March 9 and is running until the 26th. And it's at the Canyon Center Art Gallery in Boulder, Colorado. So we're going to learn more about it. But very happy to see you there and look and see the scale of the painting right behind you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big one.
Is that one of your bigger ones?
It is. There's 4 of them in the show that are this big, and then they range in size going down from there. So there's some 36 by 38, 48 by 36, and some 30 by 30s, and right on down to some smaller pieces too.
Excellent. Well, before we talk about the show, I think it would be really nice for our friends to know a little bit about you. So if you can tell us, Margaret, where you grew up briefly, when did you decide to become an artist, which is important too, and what kind of art you make?
Well, I grew up in Colorado, and I grew up in a valley outside of Colorado Springs, where my parents let us roam on the 3 acres of property that we had. And so I really became a naturalist at an early age. My mother was a naturalist, and she was very interested in observing nature. And so I think from a young age, I just became really interested in observing nature. But then eventually I wanted to learn how to paint it. And so it took me from being a child and wanting to be an artist. I really wanted to be an artist from the time I was in the 3rd grade. So I knew that. It just took me a while to get to the place where I could explore that. And finally I found, somebody who had helped me start over again. And it started with expressive painting, very intuitive, contemplative work. And then I felt like I needed to learn how to draw, because I was looking at all these photos that I had taken of these flowers, and I wanted to figure out how to paint them. And I gave it a try, but I wasn't very good at it. And so I wound up going down to Denver because there was a big fire in Boulder. We get these big winds that come through here, and sometimes they can be pretty catastrophic. And there was a big fire, and it was really smoky here. And I'm like, well, what could I do to get out of the smoke? And I wound up at the Denver Botanic Gardens. And that's a place that my mother used to take me as a child. And we spent a lot of time there waiting for my father to get out of work. And it was really nice one-on-one time with my mom, which of course I didn't get much of because I'm one of 12 kids. So, it was great to be at the Botanic Gardens with her. And, I think I just fell in love with flowers then. And so going back to when I left Boulder because of the fire, I really had this great opportunity to go to school at the Denver Botanic Gardens. I didn't know they had a school for art and illustration, but I spent 5 years doing that. And that was amazing. It was one of the best experiences because they have some of the best instructors. Collectively, they've won gold medals at Kew Garden for their work in botanic illustration. So that gave me my toolbox that I needed. And then I went from there. I always wanted to work large, and I needed to learn how to work in oils. And so there's always something to explore with painting. As you know, it's never ending. Yeah. And we always want to challenge ourselves too. So,
well, that's very nice. Love to hear how the botanical, was part of your childhood and how you embrace that. And then also, with the medium of painting, have decided to kind of like really delve full-fledged into that right now in your work, which is really cool. And now something that
Yes.
unfortunately, because I'm here in Florida, I haven't able to go see the show in person, but I've seen it, the photographs. You and I, we've been working together before the show, preparing for it. So that there's also two aspects of the show, right? There's also the more abstraction pieces, and
Yeah,
then
there are.
the more I guess representational. So tell me a little bit about both. Seeing both bodies of work almost at the same time in the gallery, and how did that idea come about instead of just focusing, let's say, on one or the other, but like bringing both sides together?
Well, I was asked by the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art to do this show about a year ago, and I was super honored. But I came over to the space and it was so big that I almost didn't do it. It seemed a little overwhelming to me. But then finally, when we found a curator, they have guest curators come and help them with the venues that they work with. They have all these satellite venues, and this happens to be one of them. And it's inside Fraser Meadows, which is a luxury senior center. It's a beautiful space. And I'm currently in the lobby of their ballroom, which is very large and spacious. And I think I had 75 people at the opening. It was a little small for them, but we all managed to fit inside of it. It was really cool. The opening was amazing. But when the curator came over to look at
Yeah.
my work, she saw all this early work, and then she saw this abstract work, and she wanted to figure out a way to pull that together. And so it's kind of like a mini retrospective, because the original contemplative, expressive work is very different than the current botanical work, and yet they all came from me. And so bridging that gap, finding a way to combine the abstraction and the illustration is really my biggest challenge. I'm still trying to figure that out. But the curator wanted to show a wide variety of work. So it was really lucky that she decided to do that, because now I have work that I did 25 years ago in the show,
Wow, amazing.
and work that I've done just this past year. And along with that, I have some of my prints too from my printmaking experiences,
Right.
which I've been doing for about the past 5 years. So
Mhm.
it's really been interesting to look at the whole show from that perspective too. It's really,
Right.
really been interesting for me.
And I think one of the nice things or the wonderful experiences of an artist working with a museum is that you are assigned a curator, and the curator is working with you. So you learn to see your work also through the eyes of someone else, not just yourself, which I
Yeah.
think gives an artist a wonderful opportunity to do so, where you hear and you see how they look at the work, how they pair the works, how they decide with you, what pieces go in the show or not. And it's really wonderful because a lot of times as artists, we are in our head all the time. We're in our studio, we look at our works. I coach so many artists that sometimes says, well, my work is so different from each other. But then when I do a coaching session, okay, let's take a look at it. I find, actually it's not that diverse as you may think of it, because you're looking at it all the time, right? But yet when somebody comes
Right.
in, they are able to kind of connect the dots or find those kind of threads of commonality that are in your work, and particularly when it comes to many years in between, between the work, which is more difficult to do, but it's so exciting that they were able to do it.
It's really given me the opportunity to look at my work in such a different way. It's been a gift to have a
Hmm.
curator pull it together, because now I'm starting to see the connection between my abstraction and my
Yes.
botanical illustration. I mean, if you look at this, it's actually pretty abstracted because
Right.
it's so large, and
Hmm.
it's a macro, based on a macro flower photo. So it's just this gigantic canvas, but the flower itself is this big.
Tiny,
So
right? Yeah.
it is abstracted and contemporary on some level. So that's been interesting. And then there are pieces along the way that combine the abstraction and the
Hmm.
botanical work with my printmaking. And when you look at those, some of the mark making is
Hmm.
goes back to when I started. And it's part of the original mark making that I did when I was just throwing paint on canvas.
Right, which now is kind of like your natural language, right? So and that kind of brings me to
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Georgia O'Keeffe, right? Because she was taking these elements of the the flower, of the botanical, and also making this abstraction, right? Which for her time, again was quite something unique and new. How has her work also influenced you in some way? And I think at some point I remember at the Art Next Level we talked about Georgia O'Keeffe. Did you get to meet her or something like that, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly?
I did. Well, I did. I mean, how incredible is that? Looking back on that, I didn't know who she was when I was 8, and there I was at a dinner party just outside of Santa Fe with Peter Hurd and Henriette Wyeth and these really famous old guard artists from Santa Fe. Like I didn't even put that together, and I didn't know Georgia O'Keeffe did flowers until
Wow.
I was at the Tate in London. I was at the Tate Museum in London. My husband and I were on an anniversary trip, and she had a retrospective of her flowers. And I
Okay.
was like, I had already started painting flowers at that time. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to be like Georgia O'Keeffe.
Right.
It must have been some subliminal connection. I don't know what it was. It was really cool that
She passed her
that
energy on
I
that
found out
dinner
that she did
table.
that.
Yeah, she passed her energy on that dinner
Yeah,
table to you, right, in some way. But
right,
that
right.
is really cool, that as just a child
It was really
uh,
cool.
being
Yeah, I
there,
feel
that is
so
pretty cool.
fortunate to have met her. She was a cool lady, boy. She was really cool. And the more I learned, now, of course, I'm very curious about who she is.
Of course.
And it was all because my parents raised money for the arts, and she was instrumental in, designing the posters for the Santa Fe Opera. And so when my parents gave them money to rebuild the opera house after it burned down. It wasn't my parents' money. It was money that they had raised through the Federation of the Rocky Mountain States. It was a big effort on the part of the public, the government,
The
and
community.
private investment money in the community that rebuilt the opera house. But my dad, gave them a check. And I think that might have been part of the reason we were having dinner with Georgia to celebrate the opening of the new opera house.
That is so
So,
cool. That is nice.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. So, but I'm curious about her. I really want to, and I've been to Abiquiu, and I've really tried to learn as much about her as possible now that I know
yeah.
that I had that connection with her.
So tell me about the title of the show. It's called Emergence, right? Which also, I love it that
Mhm.
it also comes around spring, springtime.
Yes.
Springtime, I always think about rebirth, emergence, something new, and it coincides with that too. But also the concepts that you're dealing with, also, I think tie in really nice. Tell me a little bit about that title, how it came about, what does it mean to you?
Well, I think as an artist, I'm constantly emerging because I'm always coming up with new and different ways of looking at my work. And so this was a very big deal for me to be selected by the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art to have a show here at Fraser. A lot of the artists who have come through here have gone on to some pretty amazing careers. And I felt like I had been hiding out a lot in my studio, and I hadn't really been exposing myself to the public very much. And so when the curator suggested we come up with the title for the show, and she thought of Emergence being the title, I completely agreed with her. I thought that was going to be a beautiful
That's awesome.
connection. And like you said, it's springtime. So everything's emerging. The leaves are blooming, the flowers are blooming. And people come out of their houses too. I had a great show, a lot of big turnout too. It was so
That's
fun. It was
That's
just great.
great. So let's talk a little bit about the behind the scenes, right? Like putting together the show, preparing, also the marketing. You and I, through the Art Next Level program, we've been quite a bit in touch about your show in the early stages of your planning. So you're working with your curator on the logistics and the exhibition, and we are working on kind of like how to spread the word out, right? How to get
Right.
the ideas to the people and the social media and et cetera, right? All those things that they are so necessary, and also along the way there are always like hiccups, of some sort of construction, gets on the way sometimes, or they're turning out the water,
Yeah.
things like that. But at the end, it all kind
Right.
of
Right.
worked out really well. and you had a wonderful, successful opening. So let's talk a little bit about that. Some of the behind the scenes, like once you got the dates of the show and you were confirmed that you were going to have an exhibition. What were the next steps that you took? So I think this conversation can also help some of our artists who are listening here, as they may be preparing for a show that's coming up or an event that they may have coming up. What might be some good things that we can share with them?
Well, one of the first things I did was get on the phone with Janina, Dr. Janina, because
right.
It was a big deal for me. And I'm like, am I ready for this? My inner critic was loud and clear because I'd never done a show this big before and had this much exposure in my art. And she really helped me, and I learned to work with my inner critic. And I think that was a really huge piece in being able to step into this opportunity. And then working with you on a regular basis, because there's been, 8 months for me to prepare. So I was very busy painting. I was procuring materials. I planned out exactly what I needed to do month by month in terms of my own schedule and timeline for how I would get the work done, because I had a lot of pieces that I wanted to complete for the show. So just managing the logistics of getting the painting done was one thing. But then as we got closer to the show, I knew I needed your expertise because you're so good at marketing. And I really value your input. And it was amazing the difference that it made in having an opening, because I would have never done what you suggested I do had I been on my own. So I can't thank you enough, and I can't say enough about how both you and Janina have really helped me in this
Thank you.
experience.
And I think you point on a really good, or you talk about a really good point, which is like the what you said, the first thing, right? Looking at the inner critic, which I think that's very loud in all of us as artists. Again, we work in the studio.
I agree.
We're always in conversation with our heads, right? And sometimes we are the first ones to question, right? Oh, am I ready for this? Am I prepared for this? Can I do it? Will I have the time? All the items that show up in our mind, reminding us that maybe this is not for you right now. Maybe it's not good for you right now for whatever reason, right? But going past that, I think is so important, going through that process of like, you know what? Yes, this is an opportunity that was extended to me. I'm ready for it. I'm going to do it. And you took action, right? You said, okay, I'm going to take my calendar.
I did.
Figured out exactly what I need to do, when do I need to do it, not wing it, but actually plan.
Nope.
Have a strategy, have a plan.
Yeah. It was definitely planned. And one of the things that I had always wanted to do, Sergio, for 25 years was make large-scale paintings of these botanicals. And so I set out to do this. This was something that has taken me 25 years.
Wow. So the big ones are the newest ones then? The bigger paintings are the new. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really exciting for me. I didn't know I was going to like working that big, and I wasn't even sure how I was going to actually accomplish this, but it worked out really, really well. I managed to do it, and I'm really excited that worked out for me.
And you're probably going to go back to large work, right, at some point again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I already have an 84-inch piece of
oh my goodness,
gesso canvas that I'm gonna cut into probably. I think there'll be 72 by 48 inch pieces at the end of the day. That's my next. But I don't really know what I'm going to do with them yet. I'm really interested in getting back to some abstraction, because that's my native language in a way. It's what came first, and I've been somehow reticent to do that again. Now I have all these tools in my toolbox with botanic illustration, and that's phenomenal. It's a great skill to have. I'm really glad that I have it. But sometimes I feel like my voice needs to be more. It needs to be carried through more just from the internal workings of myself, and not so much so planned out and thought out. I can do that now. I know I can do that now. But now I'd like to work more freely.
More intuitively in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love
Not
that
that this wasn't part of the intuitive process either. I mean, I feel like this was something I wanted to do for 25 years. It had been brewing for a long time.
Right.
But now that I've accomplished that, it's like, what's next,
Right. Now it has already emerged, right? So now it's there. It's tangible. You can
Exactly.
actually see it.
Exactly.
Now it's like, okay, as you go back in the studio, what is next? Which we can talk about that in a minute too. So once you pass that stage of, okay, I accepted, this is the show, this is what I'm going to do. Now I have my calendar of what I need to do for the studio time. Then that's when we started working on the marketing part. Also kind of like we looked
Yeah.
at our marketing calendar that we have in our next level, and we work
Yeah.
backwards, right? Like, okay, what is the event? How long? What do we need to do each week in order to build momentum? Because that's the hardest thing, I think, for any artist who's planning a show, is building the momentum, right? We think
Hmm.
typically like, well, I already posted it once. In my brain,
Right.
everybody saw it, everybody knows about it.
Everybody knows. That is
When you
so not
realize
true,
nobody
especially
remembers.
with the algorithms on, the algorithms on Instagram, your friends don't even see some of it sometimes, especially if you're not posting regularly. So
Right.
that was one of the lessons that was extremely valuable for me. I still have a hard time doing it, but I think that was helpful in generating momentum, at least so that people would see the invitation more than once. I could send it, and you suggested sending it in my newsletter, putting it out through email, private invitations to my clients, like all of those things really matter. And so you were very instrumental in making sure that I had that timeline where it was not just sending it out, but when to send it out too.
Yeah.
That was extremely important and helpful.
Important.
So thank you
And one of the things I
for
think we
that.
talk about too, I'm just trying to remember how many of the things, but one of the things we talk about is like making a list of who are the people that you want to see walking into the gallery space, right? And like to those people, like send them a
Yeah.
private message or a private invite. They might be in your email, they probably follow you on social media, but there's something so special about those special people that they get a special invitation that comes from you. So make them feel like they are the only ones that got that text, that message, not a group message.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I had a friend who worked with me 25 years ago, and
Wow.
I was trying to figure out how to go about being an artist. And she was already, working, placing art, and she wasn't an artist. She'd graduated with a degree in fine arts, but she went on to help the city of Denver place art at the airport and all these other amazing opportunities. And I was lucky enough to get to work with her 25 years ago, but I never forgot about her. And I
Oh,
invited her to the show, and I sent her a personal invitation. And you know what
nice.
she told me?
No, what did you say?
She said, no artists ever reach out and send me personal invitations to their shows. I get blast emails from artists where it's just a blast to all of their people, and it's not a personal invitation. So she came up to my
That's
show,
amazing.
and she
Wow.
said, thank you for the personal invitation. And of course, I'm going to come because you sent me a personal invitation to the show. And she is a big hitter in the art world in Denver. So that tells you how important it is to send those personal invites.
That is
And
so cool.
she wants to help me place my art.
There you go.
She wants to
Even
help me
better,
place my
right?
art. So,
Well, again,
yeah, I
it
feel
shows the power. I think what happens is once things get automated, it's easy to click a button, it goes to everybody, right? But at some point, everybody is nobody.
right,
So, you know,
right.
taking the time to personalize that invitation to a person, because that person means something to you, goes a long way. And I think that's a great example of that. And I mean, we remember when we used to send postcards for exhibitions, right? And sometimes we would, just before social media, we would write a little message that would
Yep.
make that postcard
Yeah.
personalized, right? And back
Personal.
then we were
Yeah.
saying, put a
Right.
put a handwritten note, right? Because
Save the
that
date.
postcard
Yeah.
made that piece of marketing personal, made it how you are thinking about me,
It did.
Sergio Gomez, right? So we can still do those things even using the tools that we have today, and make that other person feel special, because they deserve to be special, because they are the people that matter to you the most. So thank you for sharing that story. I didn't know. So that is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I'm a relational person. I like
Yeah.
having good relationships where there's rapport and there's give and take and there's, you know, just, reciprocity. That matters, and I feel like that's important. And I wasn't expecting anything from her. I just really appreciated the fact that she helped me a long time ago. And I was thanking her for that. And so she responded by saying, I not only do I want to come to your show, but I want to help you place your work.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah. So now as the show is up, it continues until the 26th. I believe you also had an artist talk already about the show, or is it coming up?
I did. You did?
Okay.
No, I had. It was on March 19th. And,
tell me about it. How did it go?
It went really well. I did get questions ahead of time so I could prepare a little bit, but I was overwhelmed in the best possible way because so many people showed up from my life, from elementary school friends to middle school friends, high school friends. Oh my gosh. Cool. Friends from college, all my children's friends who are, the parents of my children's friends, they came. Some of the administrators from the school, one of my teachers from the Denver Botanic Gardens. It was really amazing to see the people who showed up at the Q&A. And there were some really good questions asked, and I felt really honored to just be getting the questions coming at me because you don't get a lot of opportunity to talk about your work. And thank you for having me today. It's so nice to be able to talk about this with people.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And let's talk also about, when you have an opportunity like this, working with a museum, solo show, and such, it's a big commitment. It's a big deal too. And, seeing all the people coming to support you as well. So tell me about also then going to your studio. What does it feel like going to the studio, walking in? Half of the paintings are gone, or most of them are gone, right? And tell me about that too. What have you been doing? Hopefully, you've been taking some time to take it all in and pressure you for the next thing, but giving you also time to breathe. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since the show opened.
Well, I tried to go down to my studio. I looked around. It was so empty. I just didn't. I was like, oh, wow. This is what it was like before I put anything in there. And now that all the work is over here and on a wall outside my home, it's just amazing to have the space in there. But it's also very different to go into a space that doesn't have all the pieces scattered all over the place. And
So what is a day in the studio for you right now?
Well, I think it's a time of rest and renewal for me to get ready for the next thing. I feel like it's important for me to give myself permission, to give myself a little time to think about what's next, because I don't want to just rush into whatever's next. I have some ideas, and we talked about, I'd like to do those large abstract pieces. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't know if they'll work out. I have no expectations right now of what is next. I am going to participate in an open studios in the fall, and I was going to open my studio this summer to the public for some art walks, but I changed my mind on that because I just wasn't getting the traction that I needed. So I think I'm just going to take some time and maybe do some sketching or look at some of those photographs and think about which ones might work for future projects. I'd like to do some more carving, some block print carving. So, we'll see what comes. We'll see what comes. It's just going to have to, I like to work that way. I think I've always worked that way. Even though I've wanted to do this for 25 years, this was the time for that to happen. It just came through. And in part, it came through because of the opportunity. And that was just the natural course of my career. So I tend to take things as they come. And I like that approach to a certain point. But then on another level, it's like, okay, what are you going to do to make things happen next? And so my husband and I are traveling, and we get to go to Venice, and the Venice Biennial is happening. And we're going to get to go see that while we're in Venice in a couple of weeks. I mean, that's how amazing. Lucky am I to do that? So that's going to be really, really special. And I'm really looking forward to that, because going and seeing other people's work is also I find so much inspiration in doing that. And I find that, even though you're not making work, you're still working, because that really gets your mind thinking about materials and presentation and colors and combinations of materials. I mean, it's amazing to go see other people's work. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see some pictures of that. What resonates with you from the trip to Venice? That is pretty cool. And yeah, I think sometimes like we tend to rush, like when I get back into work, when I get back into, the rhythm, right, that we were on prior to the show. You're in this hamster wheel trying to get everything done. All these deadlines, everything needs to happen, and now all of a sudden that's gone. So for so many artists, it's very difficult to get back in the studio after a big solo show. But as you say, taking the time is good. Not having the pressure, taking the time to learn new things, to read new things, to let your in a different space, in a different modality, also of time. I think it's going to eventually lead you into the next thing, as you said, right? Organically bring you back in, and of course, strategically as well. Thinking now, saying, I think by you saying, I'm not gonna force myself to do an open studio during the summer. I think it's a good move because you just have this show, which still runs for the summer until end of July. So you don't have to pressure yourself to now prepare the studio, clean it up.
Right.
It adds another level of distraction in a way when you have right now this big visibility. So I think giving yourself that transition, giving that break. So then in the fall, you open your studio and it's like, boom, here I'm back, right? I'm back. So
I'm ready. Yeah.
and it's a nice transition too for people where all the attention right now is in the show. You're not trying to market something else, all the attention is there.
Right.
Gives them a break and then you pull back, right? I always talk about in their next level, you remember like it's the push and pull, right? There's a time which you gotta push your marketing and it's okay to push the marketing, and then there's a time to pull back. It's where you're at right now. Pull back.
That is where I'm at. And
if you don't post this week, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like the right place to be, and it's good to give myself permission to do that, because I'm not one to sit around and I'm not one to not work hard. And so it's very easy for me to get caught up in doing too much and going and going and going. And I really needed to take a step back and just pay attention to my self-care and, spend some time with my kids and my husband.
Wonderful.
Take the dog.
That's good.
Right.
Even the dog needs time too.
Other priorities, other high priorities in my life have been kind of, this was such a focal point. And I'm so glad I had the opportunity, but I was also neglecting other areas of my life that needed attention. So it's good to be able to focus on those things too.
Awesome. I love it. What would you tell, as we start wrapping it up, what would you tell to an artist who's listening to this and right now is kind of like maybe in the middle of it, right? Like trying to get ready for the next big thing. And they're like in that hamster wheel right now running around. What would be one advice if you could tell that to somebody? Jump off
the wheel and just get grounded and just find your place in life. Because I think when you do that and you're authentically doing your life in a way that works for you, then I think your art will automatically be something that people gravitate towards. And at least that's been my experience. I haven't changed who I am or what I make for other people. I'm not doing this for other people. I'm doing it for myself. So this was my latest challenge. And, I don't know what's going to come next. And I feel like sometimes people just rush into the challenge and they don't give themselves time to breathe or space to take care of themselves. And I think it's really important to do that. So I would just say, self-care above all, because the mind has to be in a good place. And you guys have also really helped me with mindset around this and putting my mind in the right place, finding a way to stay positive and looking at things very differently and reframing my thought process so that I recognize that I am a work in progress and that some really cool things have happened and will probably happen again. And I just feel like that's where I am now. But that is not where I was 3 years ago when I started with you. So I'm feeling really grateful that I found you and that I've been a part of the program. It's been great.
Yeah, and maybe tell us a little bit about, again, you are part of our community. And,
Uh-huh.
in our community, we have different things, right? We have like the meetups with Dr. Anina, we have the Q&As, we have the community, we have the networking with other artists. What are some of your favorite things of being part of the Art Next Level that has been for you in the last few years?
Well, first of all, it's been getting to know you and Yanina because you guys are amazing people,
Oh,
and
thank you.
you've been so helpful to all these artists. And there's such a beautiful community of
It is.
artists, and I think we're all in the same place trying to do the same thing,
Right.
and we're all trying to figure out how to go about it. And you really help us with that. We help each other too. The Q and
Absolutely.
A's that you offer provide a business sense for all of us to go, oh, I could try marketing my work this way, or maybe this marketing approach isn't working because I'm not doing it often enough. Maybe I need to try it that way. Or you learn from another artist how their open studio is working because they did something collaboratively with other artists, and it really helps you think about how to move in the right directions because they're moving in the best direction they know how. And so it really helps you move in the right direction too. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships, and not only forming relationships, but developing them and then maintaining them. And I think sometimes as artists, we tend to retract into ourselves a lot, and we forget that those people that are supporting the whole network of artists are really important to that. And I don't think if I had stayed in my studio all day, every day, that I would be having a show that's being curated through the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art's extension schedule, their exhibition schedule. That wouldn't have happened. And it was only because I put myself out there
Right.
and I met people and they got to know me and I was just myself that they liked me and said, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Wonderful. No, thank you, Margaret, for sharing, and thank you for sharing also the story of the show, the work, your mission as an artist. You're an artist on a mission, and for the things that you are doing right now. So please do me a favor, and I'm sure after this podcast, a lot of our friends will want to go check out your work in social media. If you can share where can our friends find you on the socials, and also what is your website?
So my Instagram feed is MJ Galleries, MJ like Margaret Johnson Galleries, MJ Galleries. And then my website is mjgalleries.art. And you can
Easy.
find me there. And subscribe to my newsletter, please. I would love it.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And for also anyone who is right now in the area in Boulder, Colorado, where is the gallery at?
So it is inside Fraser Meadows, and Fraser Meadows is located behind, it's on the corner of Foothills Parkway and Baseline in Boulder, Colorado. 350 Ponca Place is the address. So please come see it. It's a beautiful show.
Please do, and let me know and let Margaret know when you got to check it out. And the show runs until July 26th of this year. So please do go check it out. Otherwise, make sure you contact Margaret, check out her website, check out her also social media so you can see more of the work that we talked about today. And of course, we'll have links on the comments or the description of this episode so that you guys can also easily just go there and click. So thank you, Margaret. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Yes. Is there anything that I missed that you would like to also share or anything before we wrap up today?
I just want to say that I'd like to spark joy, and
Awesome.
that's part of my mission. And I hope that my show does that for the residents of Fraser Meadows and for all the people that get to come and see the work, because I think there's a place for them to find a part of themselves in the work.
Awesome. And you, of course, you did it here in the podcast as well. So thank you so much. And to all our friends,
Thank you.
thank you as well. We'll see you in the next episode. And I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.